What's up, guys? Today I wanted to revisit the LG V60 here in 2022. This is a awesome flagship phone that offers a lot of unique features, and it's still pretty cheap at 250 bucks on eBay for a refurbished model, a good condition model like this one is refurbished, and I'll put the Amazon and eBay link down below. I want to start off with the hardware on the V60. It is a really well built phone. You'll notice that just from feeling it, and it looks really great as well too. I still think it's a glass and metal design here. We got our Google Assistant button, which I really like as well, and down below we do have a headphone jack with the quad DAC. So we have hi-fi quad DAC option for people who are serious audio listeners. You get some excellent audio quality with your wired headphones. And also we have really good speakers, which we will get into stereo speakers as well. And honestly, I think the design still looks pretty good in 2022 here. I think it still looks very classy. Now let's go ahead and talk about the display on here. So it is a 6.8 inch display. It's a POLED display with HDR10 plus, and it's a 1080p display, 395 for the PPI. It gets really bright, so I don't have any issues viewing this thing outdoors. Now this phone is just a 60 hertz display, so there's no 90 hertz or 120 hertz on this phone here, and LG kind of made that decision. That was a decision that people were either okay with. It really depends on how much you care about the high refresh rate. I think the decision was really based around battery life, because usually LG would give you a 1440p display, but they gave you a 1080p 60 hertz display here, and it does pay off because the battery life is actually phenomenal on this phone. It's extremely good, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But as far as the display quality, I think it still looks good. It's still a very sharp looking display for a 1080p display. I think LG just did a great job with the display on here. It does not look like a 1080p display though. That's my biggest thing. Now you do have this little water drop notch here, which you can hide if you really wanted to, but you get used to it pretty fast. So I actually think the display is really good on here. It just depends on if you want, 120 hertz or not. But at this price point, I think it's excellent. Very high quality panel here. Now let's go ahead and talk about these specs a little bit more. We're running Android 11 on this phone with the Snapdragon 865 chip. We also have micro SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 8 gigs of RAM on here. If you go ahead and check out the Geekbench scores here, these are fresh ran on Android 11, and these are the scores we get. So we get some pretty good scores, very close to even, some recent flagships as well too. So it does a fairly good job performance wise, as far as bouncing in and out of applications and stuff like that, web browsing and all that good stuff. It's still a fairly fast phone, so I really don't notice a ton of lag on this phone. It's actually extremely smooth for an older flagship phone, and again, that's due to the Snapdragon 865. It's still a very powerful chip. It also is a very good chip when it comes to gaming as well too. It pretty much maxes out games. Fortnite, Call of Duty, PUBG. I have a full gaming test on this phone, and it does a phenomenal job. It does not really heat up during long periods of gaming like the newer chips do. So overall, I really like the gaming experience on the LG V60. Not only that, but you can also attach a dual screen case to this phone, and you can have that, sort of dual screen case experience, which is pretty cool as well too. Now the dual screen case is going to be like $100 extra. But it's definitely worth it if you are a power user or you're somebody that does a ton of multitasking. So basically you can think of it as having two phones, which I think is pretty sweet. As far as the LG software, it's a pretty good experience on here. I've never really had an issue with LG software. So like I said, it's very kind of basic. It's not like a ton of stuff like Samsung phones. You do have your screen sharing, screen recording on here. Like I said, your hi-fi quad DAC, the dual screen case settings, but I like how everything is organized in these settings. It's very clean. I think LG did a really good job cleaning it up with this UI. So overall, I don't have any issues there. Now we do need to talk about software updates. So this phone did get a security patch this year. It was a January security patch, and I was excited for that because we could possibly get Android 12 any time now this year. So just go to settings. You can see this one's on the January 1st security patch. So LG did promise to update their newer LG smartphones. So if anything, this should be the first phone to get the Android 12, this or the LG Velvet. Now, this phone has a phenomenal audio setup, like I said, with the quad DAC and some really great sounding stereo speakers. Also, the vibrations in this phone are pretty strong as well too. So as you guys can hear that, just a ton of bass, really good bass quality from the top speaker. So it just sounds extremely loud and just really full sounding. I actually think it sounds much better with the LG sound engine off. But you can go ahead and tweak the sound to get it to how you know like anyway. So another thing we need to talk about is the fingerprint scanner. So the fingerprint scanner actually has gotten better since I first got it. I think the Android 11 update kind of helped it. When I first got it, it was kind of iffy, but now it just seems to work. It's not the fastest one I've ever used, but it does work no problem. So you can see I have no issues with that. The only thing about this phone is that they don't give you the option to do face unlock, which they took away for some reason. But yeah, so the fingerprint scanner is fine. I just wish it had face unlock. Now, next we need to talk about the LG V60's cameras here, because it's actually a really good camera setup, and I don't think this camera setup got enough credit for having excellent color. So it has really good accurate color. I'm always impressed with the skin tones and stuff like that on this phone. So it has a 64 megapixel standard, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, a 0.3 depth sensor, and then 8K video at 30 frames, then a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. So not only do you get just good detail with this phone, but you really don't have to do, at least for me, a lot of color correcting on this phone, because it gives you that nice look. Like sometimes on the iPhone, if you're indoors, you'll get that kind of gray look, or with Samsung phones, it'll sort of lighten the skin a little too much. I find that the LG phones and also the Pixel phones, they do a really good job with skin tones, giving you a nice vibrant look that I think you don't really have to touch up too much. So I really do like the image processing on the V60. Also, the video is pretty solid as well too. Nighttime photography on this phone is also pretty decent as well too. So I think it's a pretty impressive camera. So if you really want a pretty good camera for cheap, I think this is a really awesome deal right now. The ultra wide shots are pretty close to the main lens in terms of quality and in terms of color as well too, and the depth sensor also does a very good job. Gives you a nice blur and gives you just a nice crispy portrait shot if you desire to. So yeah, so I think the shots look good. The LG camera app also is pretty nice too. It's very simple, very easy to use. Also a ton of stuff in here. I think that the only thing this is missing is like a macro mode. I wish this phone had a macro mode, but also they have a pretty sweet manual video mode on here as well too. So I just really like the cameras on here. The video on the V60 2x or ultra wide. And lastly, we need to talk about the battery life. So LG's decision again to take away or not add 90 or 120 hertz, I believe they did it for the battery life. This has a 5,000 milliamp battery, and it is excellent screen on time. You can easily get 8 hours of screen on time with this phone. I think it's up there with some of the best flagships right now. I think it does an excellent job there. If not, kind of can beat those phones a little bit. It also has wireless charging as well too. And yeah, battery life, I've never had a day where this phone has died on me if you charge it to 100%. This is easily a 2-3 day phone. If you're not a crazy gamer like that. But yeah, so battery life on here is absolutely phenomenal. So overall, the V60 is just a great option for the money. I mean, you can't get much better than this. You have premium design, a really nice display on here, quad DAC, dual screen case. You can play games at the high settings, micro SD card support. You got everything you could really want on this phone. It's really a top-notch phone, and also I think the cameras are pretty good. So be sure to let me know what do you guys think, and I will catch you guys in the next one.